Tony.
Hi, Jack.
Hello. Right. If I can explain this and you understand it, not only will it be a first for Let's Drone Out, but I think it will be amazing.
Yeah,
Today is the 1st of the 2nd, 2018.
Well done.
Right. So I've always wanted to know whether the order of us appear differently. So if you say your name and then say who's next to you on the left. So to me, hi, I'm Jack, Bright Until I Fly, and next to me is Tony.
Hi, I'm Tony, and next to me is NJ.
Hi, I'm NJ, and next to me is Tony.
This is not going to work, is it? Hi, and next to me is NJ.
How does that work? Like, what order does it put
This
it
is
in?
not going to work.
I think it's in order of importance to us personally. It's Google, isn't it? It knows everything about us.
So Tony's next to me. So does that? It sounds like that Tony's the important one for everyone.
Oh, well, I'm happy about that.
Gail, who's next to you?
Tony.
It's me. Look, I even put it on my T-shirt. See, I'm important.
Frank, who's next to you?
Tony, and on the Let's Drone Out account, it's also Tony.
Oh, brilliant. Well, there you go.
Tony, you get in the way of everything.
I mean something.
No worries. Right, so, yep, so the last person to speak was Frank. Hello, Frank.
Hello.
Andy RC.
Hello.
NJ.
Hello.
Tony.
Bonjour.
And our guest is Gail, who's going to tell us about drones in Afghanistan. Is that right?
Well, close. Iraq.
Okay.
Iraq and droning in conflict zones, yes.
Wow.
Okay. So you're really promoting the hobby as like something really like safe.
Yeah, really safe and stuff.
I reckon you must have heard us complaining about how hard it is to find somewhere that we can fly, and you've gone, yeah, that's easy.
Done all the legwork for you.
Yeah.
Have you come to radicalize
flying over
us?
here.
Because like Tony doesn't need any help. Like,
No.
you know, there's something I need to explain to you. Like, because we were wondering like, why the earth? Why would you want to come on LDO? Like, you know, because it's not like if you are like a journalist or something, you do research, you know how to like research stuff. Like, did you just like, oh, I've had enough of that, and then just LDO that will do? Because like you do realize like one of us thinks the earth's flat, and it's the person who's next to you, i.e. Tony.
I think we should find out. I think we should find out how the military drones work with a flat Earth and how they get around it.
And that's a question for Tony, I think.
Oh, come on. There's more important things tonight. We should do a flat Earth.
But yeah, Gail, how? I mean, because obviously you were a journalist before getting into drone journalism. So how did you get into journalism to begin with, I guess?
Oh, well, I've been a photojournalist for years and a drone journalist for 2 years now. And I was the first female to drone in Iraq, the first civilian female. And it's been nonstop, really, going to conflict zones and droning over military, basically refugee camps and everywhere I can find a lawless place to drone, I'll go.
So is that it then? It's just like, there's a lot of stuff going down over there. They won't mind me. Or how do you get around the obvious difficulty of wandering around with a drone? I mean, they're not exactly, welcomed into a lot of places, let alone conflict zones.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, you have to have, you don't just go over to Iraq and bring a drone. You just
okay.
I have a lot of paperwork that has to be done and permission, and then you're sometimes embedded with the military, sometimes you're not. So it's it's not that lawless. You do have some restrictions, and
What drone are you flying, or should I say quadcopter?
Okay, the quadcopter. Well, when I first started, I had the DJI Phantom 4, but actually, it was impounded quite a lot when I went, and so I stopped bringing it. It was too big, and a lot of the military were using it, and also Islamic State were using it against the civilian population. So it kept getting impounded, and I decided, okay, I'm just going to go with smaller drones. And they didn't even really pay attention to my Mavic or my little Parrot. So I stopped bringing a larger drone.
I've seen ISIS using it to actually drop bombs on US forces. Yeah, in Mosul there was a lot of that, and so I didn't. As I said, when it was impounded about 6 months ago, I didn't even, for several weeks, I just left it with security. I didn't even go back and get it. I just took my smaller drones, and I just was like, okay, I'm out of here. I'm just gonna. Because when you're going through so many checkpoints, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to go back there and get that big drone. I just want some small drones that can fold up, go, and I'm ready to fly. So Mavic Air for the win then.
Yeah, so you usually go. I'm usually go with 3 or 4 because I don't know also what's going to be shot down or confiscated.
Have you had a Have you had a drone shot down?
No, but I have. I've crashed, and I've crashed and not retrieved.
No, if I was in a war zone and I had a fail-safe or crashed, there's no way I'd go and get my drone. I'd probably send Jack out there to go and get it.
No, I'm not that dumb. I can read, landmines. Wait, Tony. Yeah, I mean, I'd be more worried about me getting shot. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're not paying attention about not getting shot, mind you probably don't wear goggles like we do.
No, I don't. But I do a obviously pre-survey walk around and stuff, and I'm very careful now. And when I was in Syria, I actually experienced my first military drone strike I was in, and that was something else. And I thought, I don't think I'm going to bring my drones yet to Syria, but so I first started really in Iraq. But I'm on my way to. I'm leaving in a few days. And I'll be in South Sudan, and so I'm sort of a war junkie with drones.
Have you got a YouTube channel? Because I want to subscribe.
Yes, of course I do. I was just on the Burmese border, the Myanmar border, and I drone the the Rohingya situation.
Yeah.
And it was really amazing because I'm used to, as a photojournalist, I mean, you really run like hell. So you're just always running around, and I'm always with these male photojournalists. They're like 6'4", 6'7", and they can run really fast. So it's like great to have. Yeah, I just park my ass, just drone the thing, not gonna run now. So I mean, there's a lot of advantages right now in using it, as well as safety advantages.
Yeah, I've just subscribed to you, and I think other people have. Your link's in the chat now, so if anyone wants to check it out. Sounds scary, man. Sounds really scary.
How do you plan your trip? So do you go over first and just with a camera and to try and get some contacts and things, or do you go out there with all your kit like straight to begin with and just kind of work your way through? Or do you phone a lot of people beforehand, or how do you kind of know where's a good place to go?
Oh, well, I'm on assignment all the time. So remember, I was a photojournalist for 20 years. So You can see my work on Getty Images. And so basically, I went from a photojournalist to a drone journalist, but I still do shoot quite a lot with still photography. But now I have the opportunity to drone the conflicts, which is so much better, because you really you have to go far to these places. Take a long time to get to, and so when you're there and you're droning it, you see so much more from an aerial view. When you're running around with your still camera, you have to run through the bomb buildings, you have to get to the top, and then you really sort of get to see a sniper's point of view. But when you're droning, it's like awesome, because, well, you know, you can just, you know, you don't have to run as much, really. I mean, I hate to sound like a lazy, I've gotten to be lazy, but there are a lot of advantages. And obviously from an aerial point of view, you get to see just how massive the crisis is.
So when you say you're on assignment, is that working with a particular media outlet, or do you work for yourself and then with whatever sort of footage that you capture, you then approach various outlets of media? Is that how it works?
No, I've been with the same agencies for 10 years. And now, as you watch television more, they're using more drone footage. So I'm asked more often now to shoot more drone footage than I am to do still work. So you know, you'll see my work everywhere. CBS News.
So it's an agency rather than saying, for example, you work for, I don't know, the Telegraph, the Daily Mail, or whatever. It's an agency that then takes your product and then offers it out to the various media outlets, sort of thing.
Yeah, most of it is through Getty Images. They through the wire feed.
Okay.
So Associated Press, AFP, all the video footage is then downloaded through the news services. And then they, you know, Al Jazeera, they use, for example, if they're doing a story on the Rohingya in crossing from the Myanmar border to Bangladesh, and they'll use my footage of hundreds of thousands of refugees who have crossed. So often I see my footage all over the news now. But I mean, I'm used to that with my photography, but the difference is that when I'm in the Telegraph or was in the Guardian and I had a still photograph, it says, you know, photo Gail Orenstein via, you know, Getty Images or SEPA USA. But now my aerial footage is kind of a montage in other news footage. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah,
I suppose I was a bit more spoiled as a photojournalist. You really get the credit, but when you're doing aerial news photography, news footage, they just kind of throw your aerial work in there with a montage of other stuff.
Right. Yeah. Do you have to identify yourself as like press? Do you have to wear like a, you know, something different that sort of says you're not part of the military or anything like that?
Yeah, I have this. This is what I have.
She wants to be part of the military, or she'll end up as a.
This is what I have.
Look at
that shows.
I have this. This thing is yeah, I have to wear this all the time. This is really heavy, and yeah. So here I am.
That's only good if they speak English.
No, I have one in Arabic as well.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't. I don't. Most people recognize this. Yeah, I do. I do have to wear this, and I also wear it because a lot of times I'm like, where I go, they're really bad drivers, and I'm often in an auto rickshaw, And wow, I wear this just for safety.
Just what? That's what I wear one like that when I go in Jack's car.
I know you say I
When
drive
he
really
drives.
slow like a grandma. I don't know what you're on about. You're the hooligan with the still thinks he's in Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, I highly recommend this if you're going to go in Jack's car.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
probably won't fit with that added, headroom. It's only a small car.
Do you wear a vest as well?
Yeah, I wear Kevlar. But I'm not going to put that on.
No.
No, I wouldn't mind. We got a Swedish friend who
Nice.
fire a rocket knife at you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so what's the reaction of people on the ground? Because I imagine a lot of them won't have seen a drone flying before, particularly not like a multi-rotor just kind of hovering there. I can't imagine is a particularly common sight. For a lot of
Well,
these
actually,
people.
that's not true. Most have seen it, but because most drones have been used on the civilian population. So the thing is, oftentimes when I enter a refugee camp, a lot of the children are running like hell away from me. Because I'm trying to get to the camp. You have to do this really quickly, okay? Most people don't do my job. Most people choose not to become a drone journalist. So, like, you have to do these really crazy things. So you jump out of the rickshaw, you get to the refugee camp, and you have the drones in your hand, and kids are running like hell away from you. Then you're trying to say, come here. It's not going to be weaponized against you like it is in most civilian populations. And I just get out and I show them what it is. And, then I just sort of let them hold it and stuff so that they're not so terrified.
So you must view some pretty emotional things from the sky, like people on mass exodus and things like that. I mean, how bad have you ever been flying and started crying? And you must have seen some pretty awful things.
Well, I see. I see awful things all the time. So
Are you just used to it now?
She's on this podcast.
Yeah, I can't really. I think the time I do that afterwards when I'm reviewing the footage and stuff in post-production, obviously.
Yeah. So in the heat of everything, you're just focused on getting the footage, and then when you get back home and look, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, but when you're there, you're just like, you just gotta hurry up. First of all, you don't know. Just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty, so you just really have to just hurry up. There's really not time to, you just got to go and do your job.
Wow, very exciting.
Someone's asked, what about charging? That must be a bit difficult.
About what?
Charging the batteries.
Oh, I carry. Well, it reminds me actually when I used to shoot back in the 80s and 90s. I used to use just, I take like 60, 70 rolls of Kodachrome with me, and now I've got 8 batteries for my Phantom. I've got 6 batteries for my Mavic. And I've got 4 batteries for my Parrot. So it's quite battery intensive.
A
Heavy.
lot of kit to be hauling around.
It is a lot of kit. Yeah. I have a fixer who usually carries a lot of batteries for me. It gets pretty heavy.
Wow, that's really exciting. Do you want any FPV drone footage? I'd love to do that. I think I'd be scared, but I'd like to do like a one day and then go home.
just to try it and then go
just
home.
To try it and then go home. But
quietly in the corner.
Where would you like to go, Tony?
I don't
Take
know.
Tony with you.
I don't know, but I would properly like to do it.
Okay,
where would you recommend going? Where have you had like the best experience? If I guess it's probably fun might be pushing it a bit, but yeah, exciting at least.
Yeah, exciting, not fun. I wouldn't call any warm, torn country fun, but
No.
exciting.
I think,
yeah.
Well, I was in, okay, this is really interesting. I was in the tunnels where the Islamic State, they drilled these massive tunnels, and the
I don't want to go there. No.
yeah, I was they wanted me to sort of drone these tunnels, and I was thinking, man, how am I gonna do? It's so bloody dark. So I was thinking about all these ways to put these lights on my drone, and that sort of just got my mind thinking about so many different things. But I mean, that was scary because I just said, can you guys walk first, because I don't know if there's any IEDs down here. I can't see.
Yeah.
I can't see, you know, and so yeah, that was definitely challenging. I would say that was one of the more challenging. But Iraq, I really enjoy droning in Iraq, especially northern Iraq in Kurdistan. The Peshmerga are very, they're very helpful, and you have to go through a lot of checkpoints.
So I've got a question to ask you. How close do you generally get to the subject area that you're going to fly? Do you tend to, do you stay back, I don't know, 200 meters, or is it half a mile, or what do you consider to be a distance where you can concentrate on your footage and getting the right thing and not have to be obviously too close to the area you want to film, or are you right up there? How does that normally work out for you?
That's an interesting question. My background as a photojournalist, I always shot with a 14 millimeter fixed lens.
Wow.
So I was always really trained.
Yeah.
I was trained like hardcore, kind of getting the mix of it, and just you're in everybody's face. So I actually drone like that. I drone. Everybody's around me.
Wow, I think if it was me, I'd be droning like a sniper. I think I'd be a long way away.
I think as well, if you look at the drones that we've got at the moment,
Yeah.
they're very wide angle, aren't they? So,
Yes,
so you kind of
exactly.
have to get close. However, this is one thing that I'm predicting is going to change, specifically with DJI. I think we are going to start seeing zoom lenses and things like that. Would that sort of thing make your job easier, a zoom lens on a drone, so you don't have to get so close, and they might not even see or hear you if you could zoom in, like, say, I don't know, 18 times zoom or something like that?
Well, you see these, when I was in Mosul, there was a crew from Hungary there, and they had their DJI and this huge rig, and they had mounted a Nikon D4S on it, and they were using interchangeable lenses, but I'll tell you, it was really cumbersome, and I could see that it was really slowing them down. So yeah, I would, I was looking at have you guys used anyone tested the Air out, the Maddock Air?
Not yet. I'm still pondering whether to pull the trigger on it, because I think the Mavic 2 is just around the corner. I think when that comes out, it may wipe out the Air. So they're
going to wait 6 months. They always do.
I heard March. I heard March for the date for the Mavic 2, but
They tease us with stuff all the way. They're going to put this on it, and
I think
they'll put upward-facing cameras soon. And
I think the biggest problem with a zoom lens on a quadcopter is that when you start zooming in, the tolerance of vibrations and knocks is a lot.
Unique have got one, haven't they, with a zoom?
Yeah, I think, is it Walkera have got one as well?
Yeah, I think it is Walkera.
I wonder how that works, because the zoom is based on that's a battery, so it takes a lot of energy when you're zooming in. And is the battery life extended on that? How does that work?
The Walkera has got 3 batteries. I've seen it.
You tend to find the bigger drones that carry these big lenses have got a huge flight time because they're big.
Yeah.
And I think what we could possibly see, and this is just a prediction from me, I can see something like the Phantom 4 having a little tiny one, because because DJI seem to be. I mean, first of all, they started off with sort of the GoPro style cameras, but for me, they've surpassed what GoPro can do now with a camera, which is why I think we're seeing GoPro struggling. And I think that's probably where the Phantom 4 is going to go. But presumably for yourself, something like the Maddock Air would be good because it's small. Is that why you're interested in it?
Yeah, it's small, and it. People have told me it's about the size of a mobile phone, like an iPhone. And so I think, obviously, when you're in difficult situations, you have to move quickly. Sure, if I could stick that in my back pocket, that would be great. It's more, I have the interchangeable filters. Have you seen that filter set?
The ND filters.
Yeah. I do think interchangeable lenses will, but boy, they have to be really small, because when you're droning so far in these places, you're really weighted down by all of these batteries. So that really hasn't been resolved yet. I think that's going to be a big issue. These batteries.
I guess as well, with there being so much sort of light reflection from, the desert and stuff, ND filters, I imagine, are quite important for you because of the amount of exposure that the cameras. Here we don't need to worry so much because it's so dull, as you mentioned before we went.
Yeah.
But I imagine the amount of light exposure, ND filters will help with stuff like rolling shutter and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes I don't have a choice. So,
sure.
It's sort of one of those strange things that you can't stop and say, I just want the cinematography of that to just be so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a very strange thing to do, in the sense that you just have to be prepared to move very quickly.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of my next questions surrounding the format, because I was interested in what format. Obviously, you're primarily shooting photos and videos. So for videos, are you shooting in 4K, and are you shooting RAW for photos?
I am shooting RAW. Yes, the files are quite large, and also, I have to. I keep repeating this, but speed is the element, because as soon as I'm done, remember, I'm not done. I still have to get back and I have to upload and transmit all of this stuff very quickly. And I'm sorry.
Return to home is not return to home where you stop. It's return to the controller then. So if you're running off, the Phantom or whatever you're flying is going to return to where you're running to and not to the base that you took off from. Is that how you set your camera, your drone off? Because that's how I would do it. Not return to home where I took off.
You
Return
don't want
to
it
my
like
controller.
following you and showing people where you are, do you?
Well, there is that.
No, it does return to home, because I am, I can't afford. Remember, I may have 3 or 4 drones on me at the time, but if one goes down, I really have to. I'm just desperate to get the next one up in the air. So I am really vigilant when I'm in the field. I'm very, very, very careful. So they've returned. And also I'm droning through a lot of wires, a lot of very complicated obstacles that, I'm hoping in the future, like the obstacle apps are, just useless, really. The
Yeah,
obstacle.
I don't know if you've seen the. I watched the live stream of the Maddock Air, and that one supposedly has got more sophisticated object avoidance in that it will. Before, as far as I'm aware, with the Mavic,
Yeah.
if it found an object, it would just stop. The
Yes.
Air, I believe, is going to fly around stuff, I believe.
What about the test though, when you're like unpacking it and it's got the 10 questions before you take off? Like, what? I've got to do this. I'm in a war zone. Can I fly here? Yes or no?
Well, you know what's really I always fly in my hotel room first. I test it out, everything, make sure it works, and then I load it onto the taxi or whatever vehicle is available. And last time I was in Kurdistan, it was the back of a milk truck. And I just said, hey, can I get a ride through these checkpoints? So I just I grabbed my drones and I went. But I do a lot of testing in my my hotel room. I fly around it and outside of it, and so.
Are there any kind of laws in these countries, or is it basically just do whatever to get the shot kind of thing?
Well, in order to enter, you have to have proper paperwork. And as I said, my larger drones have been impounded. That's why now I bring a lot of backup smaller drones. But yeah, you do need to have your press credentials ready. You have to have gone to the embassy, bring a letter. You know, there is a proper process that you need to go through. Now, nothing is standardized in terms of going from South Sudan and droning to Nepal or Bangladesh or Iraq. So it's not standardized that way. So each country, unfortunately, it's very different. Each country is very different. When I was in, I had a stopover in Oman, and they took my my DJI 4 and they impounded it. And then the next day I went back to get it, and they really mucked up the camera on it. I don't know if they were trying to pull it off or what, but I recommend, if it gets impounded, definitely get some kind of little video to make sure that when you're getting it back, it's in the same condition.
That is some good advice. I would suggest the same advice when using DJI's customer service. I'm just kidding. They've got really good customer service, actually.
There goes any chance of a evaluation of you, Andy.
Oh, I don't know. DJI service, it used to be terrible. It's great now.
I got some flack off one of his subscribers the other day. Like, he uploaded the goggles video, and I was just like, don't listen to this man. He works for Fat Shark. And one of the listeners obviously didn't. One of his subscribers had no idea like who I was, or like any. Probably doesn't care that Let's Drone Out exists, which I don't blame him. And he started having a go at me.
You can't say that now, Jack. You've got over 1,000 subscribers now. It's a thing now, Jack. You can't.
Yeah, I know. That's why Dom's here.
You can't deny it.
Hey, Dom. Like,
Dom's the bringer of bad news, though.
I am just one of those many subscribers now.
Gail, please tell me you're going to bring Tony as a meat shield. So
I am.
Really?
I would, like, if you set it up, I would honestly, I would go out and do some.
Hell yeah!
I can only fly for 2.5 minutes though.
I would honestly. I've got a business card, and I know someone who works for the MOD, and I would be like, right, finger Tony's butthole, look for treasure. Like, you thought it was hard getting a drone through checkpoints.
Jack, that's not what I'm into. Flying drones. I mean,
here's a question then. On how many levels is it wrong to freestyle around a war conflict zone? Oh my god!
Oh my goodness! I must have broken that rule quite.
dear.
There you go. Gail's already done it, so I'm up for a chat. It'll be fun. I'm definitely.
That's actually.
I have a question. Okay, when's the race, and where is it going to be? In which war zone?
Can you imagine a race in a war zone? I would do it.
You'd have to take Tony.
It could be like in World
Yeah.
War II, was it? Where on Christmas Day they met and had a game of football. It could be
Yeah.
like have a drone race.
Do you know what this sounds like? This just sounds like Running Man, you know, the old Arnold Schwarzenegger film. This is the consumer entertainment of the future, isn't it? Droning through war zones.
Someone else can fill out this risk assessment. For that.
Well, wait, no, this is a challenge. I'm challenging any of you to race me through a set of buildings, downed wires, downed lines, and refugees. Now, who's going to take the challenge?
I think you'd win, but I'm
I'm
up
gonna go
for the
back to Wales
challenge.
again.
I think at least you wouldn't have to worry about the fireworks at the end, would you?
Oh my god! I think I'd come last just because of the latency from being exactly 12 miles away from the actual event.
Yes.
We're gonna have to call you Sniper NJ now. You know that.
I
Sniper.
was too
NJ.
busy like laughing at Tony. Like I can't even get Tony down a haunted basement. He probably would have wet himself. Probably be rolling on the floor in his piss.
Do you know what? In all seriousness, it's a really fascinating subject.
It really is.
Yeah.
Especially, this is something I can relate to a little bit. Believe it or not, my father was actually a journalist for a company in the UK here. I'm not sure if you know about it out in the States, but it's a news company called ITN, and he was a war correspondence cameraman. So he was the guy behind the camera when the journalists were there talking, and he did the Gulf War and Desert Storm, and he's been out to a lot over 40 years. He's been out to pretty much all of the big big Middle Eastern conflicts, certainly, as well as other events like when the Berlin Wall came down and all kinds of things. So and I remember the kind of, he'd always keep a really good, he'd have books and books of photographs that he'd taken on site, and so I really appreciate it, especially when you mentioned the things like the Kevlar jacket and the hard hat, and he'd be traveling with this gear all the time, and he lost a few work colleagues that were killed out in these zones as well.
Wow.
So I can certainly relate to the kind of the realness and the fear factor of it. So hats off to you. That's a pretty intense job.
Keep the helmet on.
Hats on, should we say?
Yeah, hats on indeed.
Well, I'm really lucky to be able to have drones now to use, because actually it helps me in a lot of situations that I, for safety reasons, I don't necessarily have to go directly into some of these spaces where, as a photographer, I probably would have. Now I can drone over it. So, there's safety, but there's also news is changing a lot. And a lot of these combat video games that look so real, these are the kinds of things that we are sort of competing with, and we can't lose out to that. We have to be able to somehow make marginal things interesting again to a younger audience, or any audience for that matter, because I just saw some combat video games and I'm like, wow, people are not going to be tuning in to what's going on in Syria, Iraq, and the border of Myanmar when you've got just this CGI. These games.
Sort of desensitizing people, isn't it? When it's getting quite that real. I get what you're saying there. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're sort of competing with that. And as a drone journalist, how do you make this, interesting? So there's a lot of things to really think about. What you're competing with, what you're looking for, and it's quite competitive. It's very competitive.
Yeah, amazing. I think we have to just very quickly, obviously we've got I think we've got lots of questions for you from people in the chat as well, but we must just quickly cut to Dom for some more local news while we have him here, because I'm not sure he can stay on for too long. Dom, how are you? And what's the big news you've got for us?
Yeah, not too bad, NJ. Are you getting me? Have you got my audio?
Yeah, we got you.
Lower your camera a little bit. You know,
That's because I'm sitting down. I'll come and lurk closer to.
Are you on top of the fridge?
not that close, Dom.
You're on top of the cooker hood because I'm cooking lunch there, cooking dinner there. So, yeah, no. So as those of you that follow Hidden Valley's story, it sort of came to an end over the last few days. And for those of you that don't know, we've spent a lot of time, a lot of the people involved in Let's Drone Out, and the mini air show as well. Have all been involved with Hidden Valley and what we've tried to do down here over the last 3.5 years, actually. Martin and I basically had communication back from the planning office. And I think it was one of the inevitable 3 outcomes that was going to happen, but we have been shut down. Well, we've decided to shut the business down. It's clear that we will need planning permission, and given it's something like 16,000 hectare site, and you effectively have to do impact assessments per hectare, we would have the same sort of planning cost as planning a small village or a road going through the place. So whether it's by clever technical law or just simply we did it in the wrong place, I don't know. But despite all our best efforts, we are going to discontinue the business, which is sad. I think we kind of went out of our way for a few years to try to establish a point of contact between the flying community and the various different authorities and interested stakeholders. We, despite the calls from the Department of Trade and Industry for more flying sites, and despite all the lip service that they pay to the community, frankly, they don't want us to fly. So this was just an inconvenience, and we have closed the business. So yes, you can't book to go and fly over the farm with the permission tree that we had behind it and with the insurance cover that we offered, but it's still public land, so whether you go and fly there or not is up to you, really.
I'm down there the weekend.
Make the decision for yourselves. Yeah.
I'm going there the weekend. You watch its space.
So the major difference obviously will be that you won't be able to drive down there. Car access is kind of principal restriction, so time to get fit, everyone, and get cycling. I didn't say that.
Can I ask Dom if how much is it per hectare?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, basically, it's a hurdle too high to jump. It would have been tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds for the impact assessments.
Don't we all just need to go and fly around the council offices, and like skateboarders used to do? We all skate round the public paths, and then they go.
As long as you stick to your 50-meter exclusion and 150-meter congested area zone.
But skateboarders did this. This is how it worked. Skateboarders skated everywhere, and then they put skateboarders in parks. Why don't we go and fly around their council offices, and then they will corner off a little section for us?
Right, or just go and record your motors, Tony, and get a small PA in the back of your van and park up outside their offices for a few hours.
I'm going to fly my tiny whoop in through a window and bang someone on the head.
That will learn them. Frank's going to start a Kickstarter just because he's got, as if he hasn't got enough to do. You can get a hectare named after yourself if you donate enough.
So just to be clear, from Martin's point of view, he can't proactively invite you down there, but you're members of the public. If you use the public access and treat it like any other public land, it is ultimately between you and anyone who might complain and the SDMPA, who is the authority who might eventually send a ranger down there. The tone when I'm talking to the SDMPA was probably one of frustration, actually, as the arbiter in the thing, because ultimately they were finding us a useful body, if you like, for this issue, a point of liaison. And given that we ourselves never had any complaints at all, and I think between us we've all spoken to thousands of people who've, if not hundreds, certainly hundreds, who've stopped by, tried goggles on, caught the bug, come and join the club, learnt to fly with us, local schools, local authorities. Everyone was behind it, but a dog walker and an ex-MP, I think, were the grave of us.
That's it. 2 people.
Yeah, that's very.
And you've done so much for us, lot, though, Dom, and I thank you so much.
To be honest, I'm actually quite looking forward to getting back to flying. It's been.
I'll see you down there the weekend then.
Yeah, I'll see you down there. Yeah. No, I'm just going to overcome the wife's apprehensions. But
Dom, with the amount of kind of weight that is the weight of the support that's come behind the whole thing, especially in light of what's happened recently, and obviously your, enormous efforts to try and get this to turn around. Is there anywhere else? Is there anything, any things of ideas that might be floating around in your head for where to go next? Or?
From my own point of view, I've kind of run out of steam with it for a bit, so I need to collect myself. From I think one of the key arguments that it became apparent that we'd have to argue in the planning permission for running a flying site was we'd have to prove that we couldn't do it somewhere else, which just seems like an infinite. If I tried to turn that into some formal logic and then code it, it becomes infinite recursion. It's just bullshit. So, sorry, you'll have to edit that out. Editor. It was.
He's a Patreon. He's allowed to swear.
I actually thought we would get to a point where they would either say yes, you can, no, you can't, or they would price us out of the market, and it was very definitely the third one because it doesn't make them look bad.
Right.
So, but we spent out of the funds we collected some membership. There's obviously some unused membership. So quick last message on the topic. Obviously there's about 50 or 60 people who are members. You had part of a year left. We've spent some of that cash in doing planning applications and so on. There's about 200 quid left of it. I could disperse that in £5 and £2 to the various members who've got a few quid here and there, but I am sort of going to give it a fortnight, and unless anyone's got an objection, I'm going to donate the last bit of the cash to the Mini Airshow Fund, because if there is a legacy from Hidden Valley, then it's Mini Airshow, and all power to Andrew and all of you guys for making that continue.
Sorry, there's a mic there.
That's all right.
Mainly Andrew.
So.
Well, no, we've got loads of people helping out, but if anyone else does want to help out, there's a volunteers group. Go to facebook.com/miniature air show, and then there's a volunteers group on the right hand side if you want to help out with Mini Air Show.
Can I just endorse that? Having run a couple myself, it is a hell of a lot of work. So please help Andrew out, otherwise he'll look like Tony within a couple of years.
I'm helping him.
Particularly this Saturday, we're going to have a meeting on site at Popham Airfield with all the aero modelers and sort of just make sure everyone knows everyone else's faces, and try and make sure that kind of we get along well, because I think that's going to be the big challenge of this year. Is we've got a load of aero modelers that already use the site who are kind of a bit have a bit of caution around drones, and then we've got all the droney people who are a bit cautious about these old boys with their balsa planes. So it's
and their Daily Mails.
Yeah,
and their
try and
white socks pulled up with
everyone, living wonderfully side by side and working together to the greater good and everything. So yeah, come along and meet some people.
Cool. Listen, I'm going to check out. I've got dinner and I've got to play later on the Thursday night show. So if you're bored, tune in for a bit of mashed up jungle and classics.
Dom, thanks for everything so much for everything you've done.
Stay
I'll see you down there.
Yeah, see you soon. Tell Bradders. Someone tell Bradders, yeah.
Bradders knows. I've told him we're flying there the weekend.
Not sanctioned by the business.
LDO exists.
Good. All right, chaps. I'll speak to you later.
Thanks so much. All right, Dom. Love you, man.
See you later, guys. Have fun.
Cheers.
Tony, I'd just like to point out that you told another man that you loved him. Which I'd just like to point out.
That
is
he is
quite a homosexual thing.
He is tried. Look, I can love him. I love my dad. I love you sometimes.
I'm proud of you, Tony. You're changing.
I'm not coming out. I still love women more.
Okay.
Andy, I love you too, and Frank.
Oh, I love you too.
Love you too, Tony.
Wait, is this show romance?
No, we've gone gay. We've gone
It's
off
one
the
big-
radar now. It hits 9 o'clock and everyone goes gay.
It's one big bromance.
Past the watershed.
Romance.
Yeah.
Bromance, yeah.
Can I
Romance.
just say, whilst on the subject of bromance, we've got BMS Web in the chat, and I think we should congratulate
Yes.
Thomas on the. I watched it live.
Can we
I wa-
clap?
Yeah, let's
Shall we clap?
Yeah. Golf clap. It was absolutely spectacular as
Yeah.
usual.
I watched it on the
Exactly.
live stream, and I was on the edge of my seat. It was an amazing show as well as being, fantastic result for Thomas. So
I
well done to those
envy-
guys.
I envy Paul because not only does he sit there and watch it and go, "That's amazing," like we all do, but he also goes, "That came out of my balls." No wonder that little tadpole won. Do you know what I mean? I bet he like.
That little tadpole.
Let me just while Paul.
He must have
let me
dolphin
just-
for sperm.
Let me just show you, Paul. Look, my shiny new HD3s. The only
Hey.
endorsement that they have.
Oh, we all
Wow.
want one of
There
them.
you go.
I got some somewhere, mate. if you
Can
want.
I fly that in Iraq?
Oh,
Yeah.
what, the Archon, this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy. Oh, well, I'm very.
I want one of those.
I don't want bullet holes in it. I'm really
Yeah,
loving
but that's got NJ, hasn't that got lights on the back? You don't want them on there.
No, yeah, it'll have to be all black, very stealth.
That was actually going to be a question I had for Gail. Have you ever had the chance to fly a race drone rather than an aerial photography drone?
No, come
And
on.
Are you interested in it?
Talk properly. Say, Gail, do you fly rate, mate?
Flying freight.
He doesn't know what that means. I don't know what that
That's
means.
sexist.
Oh, Andy, come on.
She might. She's got
What?
ATI mode. You fly
Well,
ATI?
up north as well.
Adding
You're really,
Adding.
Yeah.
yeah, it's similar to that. Yeah.
What?
I think they call it sport mode now, don't they? On the
No. Sport mode just means that it can go faster and tilt further, I think.
Well, my
Okay.
question to Gail was: we fly race drones
I
where
know.
they don't have GPS, where they don't have attitude. Does that kind of thing interest you on the side?
Well, yes. Remember, I'm flying manually often because, hell, a lot of the times GPS just goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially down in the tunnels.
Yeah.
I'm
GPS
surprised,
down there.
I'm surprised DJI don't restrict GPS as well in areas like that. I imagine they do. Do they, Jack? Do you ever have to ask for permission, for example, to fly in a certain area through the DJI system of
Probably
asking
ask for a
permission?
credit card.
do you know what I want to know? I want to know if you were absolutely in a particularly bad spot and you're ready to go up, and then just as it's about to happen, the DJI quiz comes up.
Yeah,
Does
10
that happen?
questions.
Yeah, like has any of that stuff got through to you?
Is it safe to fly here? Are you near an
Stop
airport?
bombarding her. Let her answer.
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, a lot of. You know what? That's why I fly. I'm telling you, I know this sounds really weird, but I am in my hotel room and I fly around in the hotel because I'm like all these cookies and all these things that pop up. When I'm out in the field, I don't know. It doesn't happen because I make sure it doesn't happen. I prepare really well. And I know often the GPS goes out. So that's another reason why I don't fly really like miles away.
That's
Probably
yeah, that makes
never
sense.
see the drone. I would never see it again. Not to mention that it probably would get shot down.
So have you actually ever had that? Have you had something go into an area, a problem occurred, and that was it? You just walk away from the drone and think, that's it, I'm not going back for it.
No, no. I'm very, very cautious. No, I haven't. And by the time I get to the area, I've passed so many checkpoints and I've had to show the drone so many times that the military has usually, they've called up to the point and said, she's on her way.
Another question that was in the chat earlier is: have you ever had any close calls yourself with the, if you've been flying or anything and been like lucky to get away, kind of thing?
Well, like I said, most of the time it's the. I wish that they would have better obstacle avoidance apps, because it is oftentimes when you're in a place like that, people really have built up. So you've got lines that you just can't see, and pylons are around, and all kinds of obstacles that you don't have in a cow field that I was trained on in Bath.
Those things as well are really difficult for DJI, because things like cables, they're so thin. I mean, if you've ever played around with the object avoidance on a DJI product, it really has to be a fairly big obstacle. If it's like just a twig on a branch or something like that, you're crashing into it.
Oh, you obviously have experienced that.
I've got a friend, right? I've got a friend.
Oh, he's always got a friend. We've all got a friend.
We've all got a friend.
Found this SD card.
I've got a friend who, when he first got his Mavic, was flying it around, and the Mavic has got a narrower field of view than the Phantom. He had a Phantom previously, and was flying it around, and so it was flying it diagonally, and so he couldn't actually see that it was flying towards a tree because his camera was facing away from the tree, and it was kind of in the range of the object avoidance. But I think with the fact that it was coming at it from an angle, and the fact that it was winter and they were just really tiny twigs, it flew straight into the tree.
How did you get it back, Andy?
A massive big ladder and a lot of apologies.
Let's see. How did you get it back, Andy? Yeah, he fell for that.
Were you afraid of
it? Okay. I helped to get it back. I helped my friend to get it back. True story. It is actually true.
Owen in the chat asked a minute ago, do you have any problem with, like, from a privacy point of view, with like the people that are in the situations where you're filming or taking photos? Do you have to like get release forms or anything? Is there anything like that you have to deal with?
Well, most people are very happy to see me, especially after I show them what I'm doing. But no, I think in a war zone, you have to, I'm not going to go and fly over refugee tents where I know women are, over in that particular area. So when I go to like a refugee camp, I will get a layout. There's a map. I'll get the layout of where particular wash areas are and things like that. Yes, there are obviously things I won't fly over, and I'm not really. I don't want to get the. Sometimes you can't help it though, because the toilets are everywhere, and so when you're, I mean, really, look. When I was when the Rohingyas just crossed into Bangladesh, there was sewers just everywhere. So you're flying and you just really see just streams of shit everywhere. And it's like, oh, sorry, is that me being beeped for saying shit?
No.
No. You've got to go to a war zone now. It's kicked off.
I think it's a phone going off by the sound of it.
It's the Google Hangouts. Someone's calling you.
Oh, this is my first time on it.
Oh.
But the thing is, it's you see a lot of things that, especially when you arrive and the conflict may have just started. So when, hundreds of thousands were crossing from Myanmar into Bangladesh, they were also just starting to build refugee camps, and they were open toilets. And I mean, obviously, you edit things like that out. But you have to use discretion, not necessarily when you're in the air, but obviously post-production.
So
Dynamite.
what's the real? Sorry, Andrew. So what's the real, like, the bit that really draws you to what you do as a job? Because I mean, this kind of thing always interests me, because everyone has their passion, and you know what may be. Looking at what you do scares the life out of me, and as I said, I have a little bit of understanding of what you do. But what is it particularly about this this job that really kind of gets you out of bed in the morning and makes you think, this is where I want to go, and this is what I want to do, and you know, what's the draw?
For me, the draw is that, well, especially now, I think the draw is that we are just so infiltrated with just so much that if I have the power with a drone now to sort of change the way news, that we can see news, we can see it from an aerial perspective. It's so much more interesting because you really do get a bigger picture of what is going on. I realize now, a lot of times I'm looking through my stills, and I'm just thinking, wow, man, if I had this drone, you know, if I had this quadcopter just 5 years ago, it would have been so much, I would have been able to bring so much more back of the story. And when you're droning that, you really see just how much is going on. And for me, that's everything. I've always had that interest in working as a photojournalist.
So it sounds like it's brought some real scale to what you
the scale is completely changed my life. This is very weird, and most photojournalists would be freaked out, but for me now, I just take a few stills, and then when I get there, all I want to do is drone. I just want to drone, because I can't believe what the hell is going on down on the ground. And I can't believe for 20 years how much I've missed of the story. And it isn't until you drone over these areas that are so conflicted with war and refugees and all that, you cannot believe the state of things, the environmental impact, the degradation of just everything around you, especially the environment. You really see the impact of what's going on. And just really, I know there's probably a lot of people who are like, you know, oh, global warming, you know, it's shit and all that. But and I'm not trying to convince anybody of it. I'm just saying, wow, when you do it, I challenge anybody to go to some of these spots and tell me that environmental degradation is not going on, because you really see it on a mass level when you're droning over.
Yeah,
Wow.
certainly very, very interesting stuff, and a very, very unique look at it from your point of view. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing your views and opinions on it. It's a fascinating subject, something very different for the channel, definitely.
Yeah.
What's interesting about what you're doing, though, is I always think about you guys a lot, actually, because you're doing something that involves you think of us as very separate, but I actually don't. I think that one of the reasons why I wanted to come on the show is because actually I don't think that the way that we drone, sure, you might not be droning through Islamic State tunnels, but one thing, you know, one thing that you are doing that fascinates me is the speed by which you are able to take the drone at. And that you're doing that incredibly effective. And I would love to be with one of you.
I'm for hire.
Take Tony.
I want to come. I want to go to a conflict zone and do it. I really would do it. I promise you.
I just think the speed by which you are able to fly is so challenging for me. I really want to learn more about that because I think that could help me a lot.
I think we're also all part.
Come to the mini air show.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Are you
We're,
available on the 12th of May?
Really?
Yeah, I think you'd be a great person
I
to
would
meet in
love
person
to.
and talk to.
So the
No,
mini
I
air
could
show
lear-
is at Popham Airfield, which is just an hour on
Hopefully.
the train outside of London.
Do you guys fly through obstacles?
There will
Yeah.
be plenty of obstacles. Yeah.
Yeah.
we fly into obstacles, not on purposely, and there are obstacles you're allowed to fly into, by the way, like racing gates. And think about the Red Bull Air Race, if you've ever seen that, but shrunk down. That's what.
Right.
That's
So
kind of
how is it really okay? So it's not really that different. I mean, you're talking about speed. I'm talking about speed. You're talking about obstacles. I'm talking about obstacles. Really, we have quite a lot in common.
I think as well, you have to think that regardless to the sort of genre of flying that you're in, we're all part of the demand that creates this technology. If we weren't all here demanding this technology, companies like DJI, they wouldn't be selling these drones and making them. So I think we've all got that in common for sure.
Yeah, the market's there.
Yeah.
Except some of us aren't getting shot at.
Yeah.
That might make you a better pilot. It might, like, racing's easy. Since having, 556 whizzing past my head.
Can I fly from a tank though?
No, because you won't get any reception, dickhead.
Good point. Well, I can have a long aerial going out up from my Tyrannus out the pit at the top of the tank.
Well, as I said, I'm bringing my crossfire system, 20 kilometer range.
Man, I would so do it though.
Take Tony. I'm well up for, Should we start a Kickstarter now? Let's get Tony shot.
Well, I don't want to get shot. I just want to go out and fly. Thanks.
Gail, what's your PayPal?
What?
No worries. Right, let's call it there. Because we've got an editor now, and we don't want to go over time and make him really upset. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank
Please
you.
come back. It was so interesting.
I'm going to be there May 12th.
Cool.
Wicked.
Look forward to seeing you. Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's we'll give you details. I think there's a meet and greet thing for all the names, so people can come over and chat to you.
I'm in charge of
And
that.
ask your story. So please bring, your photos and footage that you can show people.
Really?
Think about doing that, yeah. Because if people watch this and then go there, then they'll want to see stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll ask you stuff.
Any gifts I can bring for the show next time?
Yeah, vegan cookies for Tony.
Okay.
Food. I like food.
Okay.
Food, I like food.
I don't. But thank you. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. We'd like to thank all our supporters on Patreon and subscribers on YouTube. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please go and give us a rating. If you're not listening it onto iTunes, can you go over to iTunes, Let's Drone Out, and give us a review. You've been joined by Andrew/Frank.
Good night.
Andy RC.
Thank you for watching and listening.
Gail. Sorry, I don't know her name.
Orenstein.
Orenstein. Do you want to say goodbye?
Good night. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
The sexy.
We've already done me, Jack. What are you talking about?
Come on, NJ.
See you soon, guys.
How do I sound on your monitors?
You sound amazing.
You sound great, Jack.
Road mic, Tony. You've been joined by Tony.
Au revoir.
Joined by Jack. Thank you. Right until I fight. Cool.
Peace.
Good night.
Thank you so much. Good night.